Radio Prague News. 3 young men have been charged with arson in connection with a fire that destroyed a historic wooden church in the town of Guty, Silesia. Workers have started installing a 45-kilometre-long electric fence in the Zlín region, which is fighting an epidemic of African swine fever. And a bill on defence, drafted by the Czech Defence Ministry, envisages military training of volunteers from the civilian population. 3 young men have been charged with arson in connection with a fire that destroyed a historic wooden church in the town of Guty, Silesia. The church, dating back to 1563, was one of the best preserved wooden churches in the country. The authorities said the church will be replaced. Petra Baťková of the National Heritage Institute told the CTK news agency that negotiations were underway to secure funds for the project. Besides the insurance money, contributions will be made from state institutions and the public. A collection has been launched and a charity concert is being planned to help raise funds for the new church. Have started installing a 45-kilometre-long electric fence in the Zlín region, which is fighting an epidemic of African swine fever. The fence is to prevent the migration of infected wild boar. The animals will be put down. A state of emergency is in place in the region, and special measures are in effect to protect private and commercial pig breeders. There are some 400 wild boar in the infected area. Work on the fence. Days, farmers in a high-risk area will not be able to harvest their crops and will receive compensation from the state. A bill on the state, drafted by the Czech Defence Ministry, envisages military training of volunteers from the civilian population. If approved, the Defence Ministry would spend hundreds of millions of pounds in preparing backup units from the civilian population who would actively participate in the country's defence in the event of war. Such a project would involve closer cooperation and financial aid to associations of amateur radio enthusiasts, shooting clubs and phonology experts. Running an administrative and coordination centre for such training would cost 60 million crowns annually. Czech civil servants are arrogant, careless about the needs of the public and often unable to give advice in their given area of expertise, according to the outcome of an in-depth survey conducted by Brno's Mendel University. 2/3 of respondents polled said they had bad experience with arrogant civil servants who were unwilling or unable civil servants in the country. With red tape linked to construction permits got the worst marks. People also complained that they were needed to go to several institutions in connection with a single request. And finally, a quick look at the weather forecast. The intense heat wave is expected to last until Sunday. Friday and Saturday's temperatures between 29 and 33 degrees Celsius. A cold front on Sunday will see temperatures drop to around 25 degrees and stay there for the rest of the week. Thursday was the hottest day of the year, with temperatures reaching 38.3 degrees Celsius. I'm Daniela. Listening to Radio Prague, the international service of Czech radio. Still to come in the program, the central bank has raised interest rates for the first time in 9 years. And bad news for Prague football fans. Later on in the show, who knew that Václav Havel was a fan of Indiana Jones? Find out more in an interview with producer Rick Callum. All that coming up this evening. The Czech Central Bank on Thursday announced its decision to raise interest rates for the first time in 9 years. The big question now is how fast the follow-up hikes will come. Chris Johnston has more.
Return to normal, or normalisation, a more problematic word in the Czech context, could describe the Czech National Bank's move for the first time in around a decade to raise interest rates from almost zero levels. The move itself, a hike of 0.20 percentage points, is less significant in itself than as a pointer or signpost of how the central bank currently evaluates the pros and cons of such a step and what the likely follow-up moves will be. One point to underline perhaps, Central Bank Governor Jiří Rusnok stressed after Thursday's decision that 6 members of the bank board had voted for the rate hike unanimously. Before the meeting, the spotlight was put on 2 factors that might have persuaded those board members to hold off from the rate rise. The fact that the rise would put it out of step with the Eurozone and could accelerate too fast already appreciating Czech crown exchange rates. Governor Rusnok gave a detailed explanation where the current Czech and Eurozone situations now diverge.
We kept in mind the fact that the Eurozone is currently continuing in its policy of massive monetary easing, but there were plenty of domestic reasons why we should untie ourselves from our current zero interest rates and begin the process of returning conditions to normal by strengthening of the crown, which we expected and counted on, but also through higher interest rates.
And the governor gave further examples of where on inflation, wage rises and the overall labour market, the Czech Republic stands out from many countries in Western Europe.
In contrast with the Eurozone, there is a very real and very visible and robust increase in wages. Our wages are sometimes rising on average by 5 or 6%. But attention, the Czech Republic now also has an historically high record of employment participation at the level of around 75%. That's a level that we looked on in wonderment 10 to 15 years ago when it was followed by a handful of Scandinavian and several other smaller EU countries. So the level of wage growth is even higher, perhaps this year at the level of 7 to 8%. That's a massive increase in money, which is flowing into demand, and the demand is the driver, which is pushing the Czech economy on.
For good measure here, the governor threw in a new central bank forecast, upping its expectations for growth this year to 3.6%. And seeing that momentum continuing for the following 2 years, just over 3%. One question was answered in the immediate aftermath of the rate rise. The crown did indeed strengthen to below 25.90 crowns per euro, its highest level since the low crown regime ended in April, but it then rebounded to more or less where it was hovering before, so worries about an excessive rise don't seem to be founded. But the remaining big question is how fast and how the successive interest rates will come. The governor was not surprisingly vague on that one, but some analysts are betting at least on another 0.25% hike before the end of the year and another 0.5% point raise during the start of 2018.
Chris Johnson with that report. Moving on now to sport. Letná Stadium in Prague was packed on Thursday night with Sparta fans, most of whom were hoping the home team could turn around their fortunes following their 2-0 first leg qualifying round loss to Belgrade's Crvena Zvezda. It didn't happen. Red Stars Borkier made it an even taller for Sparta when he scored in the 19th minute in what turned out to be the lone goal of the game. Jan Bellinger reports.
Thursday's ouster of Sparta Prague from the Europa League qualifiers cannot be summed up in any other way than a big disappointment. Earlier this year, Sparta gambled on turning fortunes around, bringing in a new coach, 41-year-old Andrea Stramaccioni, who in the past managed clubs such as Inter Milan and Udine or Greek side Panathinaikos. Under his lead, Sparta invested heavily in new players, but the expected turnaround did not come through when it counted most. On Thursday, Sparta were not completely without bright moments, hitting the woodwork twice, but it came across mostly as lackluster. After the match, Stramaccioni admitted that Crvena Zvezda had been the better team and had deserved to advance.
I understand 100% the fans that are disappointed for the elimination, and everybody in the dressing room understand and respect that they're disappointing. And our target is only to board tonight as a stronger team, because our target now is only to win the league, and so we have only one. There is only one way to answer positive to the fan is win. There is no other way.
One of Sparta's most seasoned players, Tomáš Rosický, spoke to the club's YouTube channel after the match.
Strašně samozřejmě těžký o tomhle mluvit, kde jsou ty body.
It's hard to say where changes are needed, but the view on the pitch is that our play is over-elaborate and we work hard to create only a few chances. Our opponents' combinations had a lighter touch and they got past us easily. It's ongoing and it isn't good. It's too bad that we weren't able to convert some good chances in the second half. We could have used that as something to build on, to grow together as a team. There's hard work ahead and we have no other choice but to fight.
Sparta fans aren't the only football fans who are disappointed. Out of 4 teams, only one saw recent success. Domestic league champion Slavia, who advanced to the next qualifying round of the Champions League after defeating Belarusian team Borisov. Victoria Plzeň are out of the Champions League, but at least have the consolation of competing and qualifying for the Europa. And Mladá Boleslav, like Sparta, are out and only have the domestic league to look forward to this year.
Jan Vellinger with that report. A reminder that you're with Radio Prague, the international service of Czech radio, and Jan Vellinger stays with us now for our main feature today.
Producer Rick McCallum is nothing less than a legend in the film business, known for his many years with Lucasfilm and his contribution to enormous projects like the